In 1745, the glittering court of Louis XV at Versailles buzzed with tales of a newcomer. Calling himself the Count of Saint-Germain, the man exuded an air of wealth, knowledge, and mystery. He was said to speak every European language fluently, paint masterpieces, and compose music of haunting beauty. His age was impossible to determine. Some claimed he appeared no older than 40, yet others swore he had attended the court of Charles V centuries earlier. The Count's charm won him favor with nobles, yet his cryptic remarks and frequent references to ancient events earned him suspicion. Whispers of alchemy, sorcery, and immortality swirled around him like the scent of the exotic rose oil he always wore. A grand gathering at Versailles saw the Count make his entrance, resplendent in an opulent coat embroidered with threads of gold and silver. His arrival was heralded by tales of his exploits, an audience with the Maharaja of Mysore, years spent in the mountains of Tibet, and conversation with figures long dead. He carried with him a small crystal vial filled with a glowing amber liquid. When asked what it contained, he smiled cryptically. "It is but water," he said, imbued with the memory of time itself. That evening, the Count captivated the court with tales of ancient Egypt, the Crusades, and the Renaissance. "Surely you jest, Count," a noblewoman teased, "for no man could have witnessed all you claim." The Count merely smiled. "No man indeed," he replied. In a private chamber illuminated by the flickering light of countless candles, the Count invited a select group of curious noblemen and scholars. The walls were lined with shelves overflowing with books bound in leather and gilded with symbols none could decipher. Strange instruments gleamed in the dim light, glass alembics, retorts, and a mortar filled with sparkling powder. As the audience watched, the Count placed a dull, leaden coin into a crucible. He added a drop of the amber liquid from his vial, and the metal glowed red-hot without the aid of a flame. When the glow faded, the coin was no longer lead but pure gold. Gasps filled the room. One skeptical noble leaned forward. "An illusion?" he accused. "A clever chemistry, nothing more." The Count's dark eyes glinted. "Perhaps," he said softly. "But isn't chemistry itself an illusion? Atoms dancing in a void, appearing solid, but always changing?" He handed the gold coin to the man. It was heavy, flawless, and undeniable. Not all were dazzled by the Count's feats. The Marquise de Montreuil, a respected noble with a sharp wit and an even sharper tongue, openly accused him of deceit. "I have heard," she said in a cutting tone, "that you claim to have lived for centuries. Yet the Count I knew 20 years ago bore no resemblance to you." The Count bowed deeply. "Ah, Marquise," he said, "you flatter me. Were I truly the same, do you not think the passage of time would refine my manners and my countenance? Indeed, we have met before, at your debut ball in 1725. You wore a gown of lavender silk and danced with the Duke of Orleans." The Marquise's face paled. "That is impossible," she stammered. "I was but a child, and you could not have been more than 30 then, as you are now." The Count inclined his head, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Time," he said, "is a river, and some of us learn to swim upstream." As quickly as he had risen to prominence, the Count disappeared. One morning, his residence at Versailles was found abandoned. His belongings remained untouched, from his ornate clothing to his alchemical tools. Only a single letter was left behind, addressed to King Louis XV. "My king," it read, "I have done as you asked and warned as I could. The winds of change blow fiercely upon France, and the seeds of revolution are sown. Beware the year 1789, for the tide will turn irrevocably. As for me, I must continue my journey, for there is more to uncover and more to preserve. Yours eternally, Saint-Germain." Years later, rumors spread of a man resembling the Count seen in London, Venice, and Vienna. Each sighting described him unchanged in appearance and bearing. A composer in Berlin swore he had met the Count, who helped him pen a symphony. A merchant in Istanbul claimed the Count spoke perfect Greek and discussed the fall of Constantinople as if he had been there.
The year was 1745. and the palace of Versailles glittered like a jewel in the candlelight. Courtiers in silk and velvet whispered behind fans, their eyes darting to the grand staircase as a hush fell over the room. For a newcomer had arrived, a man whose very presence seemed to command attention. He was called the Count of Saint-Germain, and he cut a striking figure in his opulent coat of gold and silver thread. His dark eyes glinted with secrets, his smile hinting at knowledge beyond mortal ken. As he descended the stairs, the court held its breath, sensing that an extraordinary presence had entered their midst. Whispers followed the Count as he moved through the room, his every gesture elegant and refined. They said he spoke a dozen languages, painted like a master, and composed music that brought tears to the eyes. But it was his alchemical skills that truly set tongues wagging. Rumors spoke of transmutations, of base metals turned to purest gold, of elixirs that promised eternal youth. And then there were the stories of his past, tales that seemed to stretch back centuries. The Count spoke of ancient civilizations as if he had walked their streets, recounted conversations with figures long dead as if they were old friends. Some claimed to have met him decades earlier, swearing he had not aged a day. As the night wore on, the Count dazzled the court with his wit and erudition. But there was a weight to his words, a hint of melancholy beneath the charm. Time, he said softly, is a river, and some of us learn to swim upstream. With those cryptic words, he slipped away, leaving a room full of nobles buzzing with questions and a lingering scent of roses. The Count's demonstrations of alchemical prowess soon became the talk of Versailles. In private chambers, before select audiences, he transmuted lead to gold, created gemstones of breathtaking beauty, and even, it was whispered, restored youth to the aged. But for all the wonder of his feats, there were those who viewed the Count with suspicion. The Marquise de Montreuil, a sharp-tongued noblewoman, publicly accused him of charlatanry. No man could have lived so many lives, she sneered, unless those lives were lies. Others, however, were drawn to the mystery. Scholars and philosophers sought out the Count's company, eager to learn from his vast store of knowledge. In late-night discussions over wine and candles, he spoke of ancient wisdom, of forgotten civilizations and lost arts. He hinted at a grand, unifying theory, a secret that could unlock the very mysteries of existence. Yet even as his fame grew, the Count remained an enigma. His past was a labyrinth of contradictions, his true age and origins impossible to determine. Some whispered that he was a spy, an agent of foreign powers seeking to undermine the French court. Others believed him to be a religious heretic, a practitioner of dark arts. But the Count only smiled at these rumors, his secrets remaining his own. And so the mystery deepened, the lines between truth and legend blurring with each passing day. Was the alchemical Count a charlatan, a genius, or something else entirely? A question, perhaps, that only time itself could answer. As the Count's influence grew, so too did the unease of certain factions within the court. His knowledge of state secrets, his uncanny predictions of future events, his very existence seemed to pose a threat to the established order. It was the king himself, Louis XV, who finally sought out the Count in private. In a candle-lit chamber, the two men spoke for hours, their conversation shielded from prying ears. What passed between them remains unknown, but when the Count emerged, his face was grave. That night, he gathered his most trusted confidants and revealed a secret that would shake the very foundations of their understanding. "I have walked this earth for centuries," he said softly, "not by trick or illusion, but by the very alchemy of the soul. I have seen empires rise and fall, have witnessed the turning of the ages. And now, my friends, I must leave you, for my work here is done." Before their astonished eyes, the Count seemed to shimmer and fade, his form becoming insubstantial as mist. "Remember," his voice whispered, "that all is not as it seems, and that the truth is a treasure beyond price. With that, he was gone, leaving behind only a room filled with questions and a faint scent of roses.
In 1793, during the height of the French Revolution, a philosopher named Antoine wandered the fog-shrouded streets of Paris. He passed the crumbled ruins of an aristocrat's estate, its walls scorched and broken. Standing in the shadows, Antoine saw a figure dressed in a dark, elegant coat trimmed with silver. The man's face was pale and serene, his dark eyes piercing and ageless. "You are Count Saint-Germain," Antoine whispered, his voice trembling. The man inclined his head and smiled faintly. "Perhaps," he said, "or perhaps I am merely the memory of him." Before Antoine could respond, the figure turned and walked away, disappearing into the fog. The faint scent of roses lingered in the air, and Antoine was left wondering if he had met a man or a legend.